Yes, hello. Hi there. My name is Tim. I am a local in the area, actually. I teach college at Suffolk Community College. I'm an English teacher, so I'm here to talk about my favorite show, as we all are here for our favorite show.
Star Trek?
What are the odds?
Yeah,
Yes.
they kind of go hand in hand, right?
Well, sci-fi.
Anyway, so yeah, hey, thanks for everyone coming in here because, as I understand it, one of our topics is actually giving a talk right now in the other room. So thank you for choosing us over that. So I take it that everyone in here, if they are present, that they are fans of the Fifth Doctor era. Yeah, it's great. I mean, and it's good because we actually have several members, representatives of that era, and I think that's really cool. I'm what I guess what's kind of funny is it's I'll just come out of the top right here and say like it's not my favorite era of the show. I think it's very divisive in a lot of ways, but the one thing that I really do enjoy about it is the dynamic between the Doctor and the companions, because I think it is very unique. It's interesting this year because it kind of starts off as very like kids program Saturday morning. I don't know, like I'm just thinking like Castrovalva, like there's like one sequence in particular, the Doctor's like Tegan, the navigator, Adric, the mathematician, and I just you never see anything like that ever again. It's like Power Rangers almost, but like it evolves. It evolves this show, like this era. It's like it becomes like almost like Blake Seven, honestly. Everyone's just like bickering the entire time. No one's happy to be here, and that's really what amuses me. That like they're all like reluctant travelers, all the companions. Like they all don't really want to be there for one reason or another. That really just tickles me. And when I originally conceived this panel, honestly, I wanted to make it about Turlo in particular because he's my favorite of the Fifth Doctor's companions. But then I was like, no, they all have a lot of things in common with Turlo. So I think it's better to expand the focus here. So I'm going to introduce our panelists here, or like they give our panelists a chance to introduce themselves, and I think we'll go around here to say like what's our favorite thing about this era, and I'll just say really quickly, I really like the Fifth Doctor's vibe. I think he did the space dad thing before other doctors did. I just like how exasperated he gets with his companions. It just again amuses me, tickles me. I like when people don't get along, but like if it's funny, then it's great. So yeah, that's why I like this era. So yeah, I'm Tim, and these are my panelists.
Deej.
Deej, why don't you say what you like about the era?
Oh, I liked all of the era because it began with Adric, losing Adric, and that was the first companion for me that was actually somebody who died, and then all the other companions I thought were pretty cool because Nissa left to help heal, people, and Turlo, even though he's basically trying to use by the Black Guardian, he ends up making the right decision. So I just thought that was so cool.
I'm Rob. What I like about this era is this is the first Doctor and TARDIS crew that I grew up with. It was the Visitation. It was shown out of Philadelphia on PBS, WHYY, Channel 12. A half hour of Doctor Who and a half hour of Monty Python, two British institutions. I watched it until I got to Time Flight. Then it kind of flipped to John Pertwee's Inferno. So in the era of pre-internet, it's like, wait a minute, he's this young, handsome guy with, three companions, and now all of a sudden he's a white-haired guy with velvet smoking jackets. Eventually learned about the show, but there was a lot to offer. I found out why they killed off the sonic screwdriver, a very iconic piece of equipment. It made sense. And again, it's one of the times that they had the three companions, traveling with the Doctor, and you see why they get to squabble a lot.
I'm Nancy. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And I kind of simultaneously watched Tom Baker and Peter Davison as my first Doctor Who experience, but being a 14-year-old girl, I kind of had a slight preference for the young guy with the shaggy blonde hair. But I also, you know, I think that I think that the Fifth Doctor is really underrated. I think that he's written off really easily. And, you know, he's a different kind of Doctor. He's not, you know, John Pertwee out being all James Bond. He's much more understated and deliberate than a lot of, you know, Tom Baker could be over the top and silly. And I think he was a good, you know, alternative vision of the Doctor after Tom Baker. But I also really like his era because he's got two really strong female companions, and they're strong in very, very different ways. In fact, almost in completely opposite ways.
Yeah, and that's like a really good point. I meant to mention that, like, coming off of Tom Baker's era, this is like a much more grounded time in the show. I don't know, it's like Tom Baker's era is all over the place, and like if you're watching everything in sequence, like. You get to the Peter Davison era, it's honestly like we just woke up from from a night of drunken revels and everything. So I don't know, it's very sobering in a very enjoyable way. I just want to get this guy out of the way before we move on to the actual more better talking points, but Chameleon. I just want to get him out of the way. Like Chameleon, what do we think about Chameleon?
All right, I'll take it. I like the fact that it's the only time the Doctor ever mercy killed off a companion.
Yeah, put him down like an old yeller.
Yes, granted we only see Chameleon in King's Demons.
Oh my God.
And then he's sitting somewhere in the TARDIS. And then you see him again in Planet of Fire when the Master again reestablishes the mental contact. But then, you know, at the end, you know, Chameleon basically is like, take my life, you know, my robot life. And the Doctor does that. And it's like to remind people it's one of two companion deaths that the Fifth Doctor experienced.
Yeah, during the same era too. Any other thoughts?
I think he was a great idea that the budget and special effects just couldn't live up to.
Yeah, I really like the voice, and if you've heard Chameleon on recent audios, he's like John Coulshott, does like a spot-on impression of the original actor, who's, I don't know the name actually.
Gerald Flood.
Okay, sorry?
Gerald Flood.
Gerald Flood, okay, yeah, I mean, a very rich voice, and I don't know, you're used to robots sounding like a certain way, either they're C-3PO or they're Marvin the Paranoid Android, but this is like more like cultured and like, I don't know, it's very interesting, and yeah, interesting concept, and honestly, if they could have worked, if they had the budget, I'm sure that he could have been like a very interesting presence on the TARDIS, but with what is there, I just think it just does not work, and I can see like why he was just kind of hidden away for like so long. All right, now that Chameleon's out of the way, I'm gonna move on to basically what I think everyone will agree is like Doctor Who's very own Wesley Crusher, which is Adric. Now, Adric is a very interesting figure because I just think he's almost universally hated, and unlike Wesley Crusher, I think there is a case. Unlike Wesley Crusher, I don't think there is any case that could be made for Adric. I don't think this is like a person that we're happy to see. And no offense to Matthew Waterhouse, I think he has the most punchable face ever, and
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Just like whenever he's about to betray everybody, I'm like, what are you doing? Like I don't know. I'm a teacher, so you know, it happens. But anyway, Adric has a very interesting story because he's like a hand-me-down companion from Tom Baker's era, and the remit for Adric was that he was supposed to be the Artful Dodger in space. That is not successful. He's kind of just a punk, snot-nosed brat, and I don't know. It's like he's just a very awkward figure, and I can see like why again, if anyone knows really the circumstances behind his departure, whether it was like Matthew Waterhouse actually wanting to leave, his contract being up, I don't know that for sure. However, I don't think he's like missed by anybody afterwards. And from what I understand, he was not like a popular figure even as a performer on set. So I think it was just like a case of we don't really want him here. And like Adric doesn't even really want to. All right, so topic of the panel here. All right, like he didn't even really want to be there to begin with. He kind of just like was like foisted onto them, and I don't know. He's like the first one of these companions who seems to just be repelled by the idea of travel with the Doctor. So what do we think about that?
It's kind of interesting because he's stowed away.
Yes.
So he did make an active choice to be there, unlike several, if not all, of the other companions. You know, he made that active choice. I don't actually hate Adric, and I think it's because he's a kid. You know, he's a screwed up kid from a screwed up culture, and so here he is, hopping on the only thing that he can see that gets him out with no plan whatsoever. Not necessarily admirable, but understandable,
Yeah.
you know?
He's it's like you feel bad for him because like you get a sense that like whereas the Doctor raises his companions up, he doesn't really show the same care with Adric. He just seems kind of indifferent to him, and I'm pretty sure in his last episode, even in Earthshock, like they even like tell him like, oh, maybe Adric's moody, you should go talk to him, and he's like, I don't really want to. So it's just very unusual for the Doctor to just have such disdain for a companion. I mean, you know, I don't think we really see that with any other companions.
Oh no, nothing. I mean, I've always wondered about his attitude. But as you mentioned, he's just a kid. You know, he's one of the youngest ones at this point to be with the Doctor. So I figured that was what was doing it, because he was just a kid in his teen years trying to figure out who he is.
Yeah, he is a kid, but he's like, but he's also a TV writer's impression
Yeah,
of a kid.
exactly.
And like, he doesn't really behave in a way that children do
Well,
or should.
he's not human.
Well, that's a good point, actually, and I think he has a future of evolving into some sort of swamp monster. So, like, I think that would have been a very interesting development for the character, but I don't know. Like when you have like kids like saying like, "Can you pass the sodium chloride?" It's just like, shut up, please. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've met kids like Adric, and like, you know, they just get. They get picked on, you know, for reasons. But yeah.
Well, first of all, spoiler alert: Adric is still dead.
Oh yes. Or is he? Oh.
Well, I think right now we're driving around with him in our cars as oil.
Right.
But, no, I'll take a slightly different tact with Adric. I think he was better served under the Fourth Doctor. I know State of Decay, he was kind of a little whiny, brattish, you know, hanging out with the vampires, but his strongest moments really were in Keeper of Traken and Logopolis. The Fourth Doctor recognized his mathematical skills, relied on him, even though he was a teenager, respected his mathematical skills. And then we get probably a whole new writing team, writing for a brand new Doctor, 2 brand new companions, and Adric, and like you said, it's what the writers did. So that's why in Black Orchid, Adric is basically relegated to the only memorable thing is that he's eating at the buffet table.
Yeah.
You know, he does it. Janet gets to dance, Nissa gets a double, the Doctor gets to go around looking for, you know, Indians with plates in their lips, and Adric is eating at the buffet table. I think he was really, you know, a disservice because, like you said, is how do you write for him? And they bring out he brought out the worst characteristics. And so I think but yet, ironically, when they killed off Adric, everybody was shocked. Like,
Yeah.
killed off a companion. Like, that hadn't been done since the 60s, in the Dalek Master Plan, where you had 2 companions killed off in that long story. So to have a companion actually killed off was pretty traumatic. And then do the, you know,
Silent
the
credits.
silent credits. It was a good memorial. And then, you know, other than Chameleon, Adric was really the last, you know, humanoid companion that was killed off. I mean, come on, Moffat, you know, kills off a companion, and next episode they're back walking around.
Yeah.
No heartbeat.
And also in the credits, they were showing Adric's gold badge
Yes.
broken.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that's
a-
right.
That's yeah, obviously that's like
That's
his biggest
really
moment.
dumb. Oh my god.
It's like very traumatic to watch that, and like, you know, I think in that moment you really do realize that he is just a kid, you know, and he's a kid, he's like sacrificing himself. This is something that like no child should have to do, ever, and I think that's like the most, like the biggest like opportunity for us as the audience to like really empathize with him, because I don't really think he's like much of a character otherwise.
No.
I don't know. I think it's very sad, really. He's like holding his like badge to his like to his like, you know, cheek, and it's just like you really do see his youth, and like he is like he's dead, and it's very sad. In fact, like he was just name dropped in Power of the Doctor, which I think is like, you know, a testament to like his lasting legacy and how effective that moment is. So like, any other thoughts on this stuff?
I think that moment in Power of the Doctor was extremely powerful, and I feel bad for New Who fans who have no
Yes.
idea what it meant.
The empty chairs at the end.
But I also,
Oh, that's what that was.
you know, I think with his death, it's like everybody loves to hate on Adric, but in that moment, it's like, yeah, he may have been annoying, he may be a kid, he may not really know where he is or what he's doing, or more to the point, maybe the writers don't know where he is or what they're doing with him, but he still didn't deserve to die.
I will say this, like, about the last like counter argument I would make about him being a kid. I think you can do the genius character, the genius like young character, and do it well. Zoe is a great example of that. Comparing like Zoe with Adric is like a world of difference. Whereas Zoe is like, you know, charming, sweet, funny, and everything. And like, you know, when she's like one-upping the Doctor in like you know, math or science or something, you know, we laugh. But whereas when Adric does it, it's just like, get out of here. That's my opinion anyway. So moving on to like another like genius character we have, like kind of another hand-me-down from the Fourth Doctor's era, is of course Nyssa of Traken. So just a reminder for Nyssa's circumstances, she has a very tragic backstory that I think is more interesting in concept than was actually executed. Her father's body was stolen by the Master, which
Right.
is something that they almost never address like afterwards, except like once or twice. But like Nyssa herself, like as like the last of her kind, you know, is something is like a concept we'll revisit again in the show, which I don't think the show pays enough attention to, that like could have like shown for some great moments of like character development that I don't think like anyone in who's developing the show was actually really interested in it at the time. But like Nyssa is very interesting. At least like if you look in certain corners of the fandom, you see that she has like a big following, like more so than like, well, certainly Adric, but like I see like a lot of like vocal personalities in the fandom who like love Nyssa, and I think that just shows like just how much like potential there is in her character, and certainly she flourishes in Big Finish. If you like listen to her audios with like the Fifth Doctor solo, they have like a wonderful dynamic, and I think it really plays to that character's strengths that the show just never really explored or wanted to explore. So what do we think about Nyssa?
Well, kind of similar to Adric in the sense of the intelligence. And that goes back to, again, Keeper of Traken, when the two of them were working together on, you know, basically ways to, you know, support the Doctor and everything, the different things that they were conversing about. So there was, at that point, they were equals. But then it gets back to how do you write good storyline for two intelligent kids that are very similar. Just this was less whiny and bratty. But I think she had a certain, and again, I guess because of her upbringing, a certain aloofness, a certain, you know,
Upper class.
upper class. That would be good. That kept through, you know, through the series, and kind of that set her apart. And she did feel of the three a little bit more alien,
Yeah.
at least in that TARDIS group.
My goodness.
Yeah, she is more alien, but it's interesting to compare her to Adric because I feel like Adric gets, you know, hey, you're a mathematical genius. Here's this great badge. Aren't you awesome? And really doesn't seem to have any other kind of mentoring going on. Whereas Nyssa has always, like, she's got that relationship with her father. You know, he trusts her with different equipment and things like that. He knows that she knows what she's doing, and then the Doctor just kind of fills in that spot with her in a way that, as you say, he doesn't with Adric. And I think that, I don't know, they may be equal intellectually, but Nyssa is way more mature than Adric is.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, now that we like even bring up like, I guess like the legacy of the character, I don't know if like it's been officially stated or anything. I'm just wondering now, like why no one invited Sarah Sutton to be in Power of the Doctor, like. You know, especially because since it featured the Masters so heavily, I just figure that's like, you know, a natural inclusion that should have been, you know, thought of by someone.
Yeah.
Imagine the way he would have taunted her.
Oh God,
No.
yeah. I mean, like, you know, like Auntie Vanessa, we forget who that is, but like, you know, I feel like just so fundamentally, the Master is part of her backstory that like, it just seemed like it should have happened.
No, the Auntie Vanessa, believe me, my son and I were like high-fiving each other when that was slipped in.
Yeah.
And I even asked Janet last night, I said, so what was it like when the Master said about Auntie Vanessa? And she's like, yeah, it brought back memories. And then she said, Sasha it's just so delightful to work with.
Right, yeah.
And he was so vicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, like, so like Nyssa, in terms of like her being what I would call like a reluctant traveler, I mean, she literally has nowhere else to go. Her like home planet is destroyed. Her people are gone, and her father is dead. Well, you know, basically, I mean. I don't know if this has been explored in the expanded universe, but like, what is going on with like Shrewdness? Like, I mean, is he like somewhere in there, like in like awake conscious or something, which I think is a disturbing
I was
concept.
gonna say, I hope not.
I hope not too, but like, you know, you just don't know, and like, I wish that was explored more heavily, but again, as soon as it happens, it's just forgotten about, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know. You mentioned like mentorship with like Nyssa, and like I feel like they do pay that sort of attention, at least like more attention than they do certainly with Adric. So yeah, Nyssa's, at least in my opinion, I prefer